What happens if a dog eats chocolate? That is what we're going to be talking about in today's episode of our Ask a Vet series. Hi, I'm one of the veterinary partners here at the clinic, and you can ask us your questions that you have about your pets. You can submit them through the Contact Us page on our website, or you can find us on social media and send us a message there. And we get some really great questions, so today's question is a good example of one of those. It goes, what would happen if my dog ate a whole bag of chocolates? If he survived, how long would it take for the toxicity to wear off? There are a lot of different opinions on this online, and I've even heard people say that dogs can eat chocolate and it is fine. So let's break down what we know. So yes, chocolate is toxic for dogs. It contains something called theobromine. This is very similar to caffeine. It's found in very small amounts in things like tea and coffee. But in chocolate, it's a little bit higher. And so it has a similar effect on dogs to what caffeine would do on us, but it doesn't break down in their body as easily. In fact, when we look at the chemical structure of theobromine and caffeine, they're only two atoms different. So that's pretty similar. Theobromine does act as a diuretic, which means it increases urination. It also acts as a stimulant, and it acts on the central nervous system. So it can increase heart rate, it can increase breathing rate. It can make a dog hyper, they may also get diarrhea. And so, if you gave a dog enough chocolate, it could lead to death. In addition, because it's increasing the heart rate and the blood pressure, it could lead to things like arrhythmias, meaning it could change the rhythm of the heart, or even worse, cause cardiac arrest. Now, when we're talking about chocolate, we have to talk about the difference between dark chocolate, milk chocolate, and white chocolate. Dark chocolate has the highest levels of theobromine per serving size. Milk chocolate has a little bit less, and then white chocolate has the least amount. And then baker's chocolate, which is usually not eaten by people, has the highest amount. So when we're looking at how much chocolate it takes to affect a dog, it depends on the size of your dog, how much chocolate they eat, and also the type of chocolate that they eat. There's no exact rule of thumb for this, but if you're ever concerned, it's best to call your vet. And just to give you an idea, generally speaking, with dark chocolate, it would take about 2 ounces or 60 grams of this per kilogram of body weight to be toxic for a dog. With milk chocolate, it would take about half an ounce or 14 grams per kilogram of body weight. And with white chocolate, it would take more than 3 ounces or 85 grams per kilogram of body weight. Of course, if your dog manages to eat the entire bag, this is gonna be a lot more than 2 ounces or 60 grams per kilogram of body weight. So what would actually happen if your dog ate the whole bag? Well, it depends. If it's a small dog and it's a large bag, you might be seeing some vomiting within an hour or so. You might see increased thirst, increased urination. You might notice that they're a little bit hyper, they're a little bit more excited than usual. And you might also notice that they have diarrhea. As time goes on, if it's a smaller dog and you didn't catch it right away, you might start to see some tremors. You might start to see that the dog becomes uncoordinated. As time goes on further, you might see some seizures. With a larger dog that ate a smaller bag of chocolate, you might not notice anything for 6 hours, 12 hours, maybe even longer. So the bigger your dog is, the less concentrated that chocolate is in their body once they consume the whole bag. So it's going to take longer for the symptoms to start. But once they do start, you're going to notice the same things. Your dog's going to be vomiting, they're going to be thirsty, they're going to be urinating more, and they're going to be having diarrhea. You might notice that they're more excited than normal, that they're more hyper than normal. And as time goes on, they might start having tremors, they might start to become uncoordinated. And as time goes on further, they might start having seizures. The other thing to keep in mind is that chocolate bags usually have multiple layers to them. They might have plastic inside, they might have a shiny lining. There's all sorts of things that are not good for a dog to eat. Even the string that holds the bag closed might be a choking hazard. So if your dog eats the whole bag, you're probably going to see some vomiting within an hour or so, especially if it's a smaller dog. And this could contain some of the chocolate. And so this could end up making the dog more sick. It also depends on your dog. Some dogs, if they eat something that they shouldn't, they will just naturally vomit. So if you know your dog is prone to doing this, it might help to stop them from eating the whole bag. But if you're worried about your dog eating chocolate, it's always a good idea to call your vet. If you go to an emergency vet, they will run a chemistry panel, which will check the levels of certain things in their blood, including electrolytes. They'll check the level of glucose in their blood to see if it's high. They might run a complete blood cell count. And they will also do an abdominal x-ray to make sure that there's nothing stuck in their stomach. If your dog is still showing clinical signs, they might need to be hospitalized and have fluids administered either intravenously or through a catheter that goes into their stomach. And if they have seizures, they might need to be monitored closely for a while. If you call your regular vet first, they might recommend that you bring your dog in for an appointment during business hours instead. And if it's a mild case and your dog is otherwise healthy, they might just want to see them during business hours. If you live close to a vet, you might be able to bring your dog in, have them induce vomiting, and stop your dog from absorbing any more of the chocolate. But if you live far away from a vet and it's after hours, you might need to go to an emergency vet. But how long does the toxicity last? Again, it depends. Depends on how much chocolate they ate and depends on the size of your dog. But the general rule of thumb is that it can take anywhere from 12 to 72 hours. Again, the bigger your dog is, the longer it's going to take for the toxicity to wear off. It's going to take longer for the chocolate to clear their system, and you're probably wondering why. Why is it that some people will tell you that chocolate is fine for dogs? I've even seen videos of people giving their dogs candy bars with chocolate in it. Is this true? Well, it is true that dogs can eat small amounts of chocolate and be okay. For instance, a big dog who eats a small amount of milk chocolate might be fine. But again, it depends on the size of your dog and how much chocolate they eat. Also, I think sometimes people don't realize how much chocolate their dog is eating. Sometimes they might be giving their dog small pieces of chocolate over the course of several days. And so it might not be a huge amount of chocolate all at once, but it's a gradual exposure. That being said, I wouldn't recommend giving your dog any chocolate, even in small amounts, unless it's specifically made for dogs. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, we'd love to hear from you, so leave us a comment down below and tell us what you think. What would you give your dog if they had a whole bag of chocolate? Would you take them to the vet? Would you wait and see if they were okay? Let us know down below. Also, make sure you subscribe so you never miss out when we release new videos. Until next time, everyone, see you later.